we'd take our kids to these properties and we would rip out carpet together and they would paint and they would play and we would do the work together. So we were building character in our kids when they were really young and we were all together. And we would make it fun. And then, it would be hard work. And it's like, okay, if you do this, then I'm going to go take you to get ice cream, And so it was teaching them those things that, yes, like some things you do have to roll up your sleeves for. And, you got to get that a little bit dirty to, reap the rewards of what this is.
Welcome to the Real Freedom Show, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Freedom, where we talk about building time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. If you want to get started on your real estate investing journey, check out our website, freedomthroughrealestate.com. We've got lots of articles, videos, things for you to learn to try to decide what's going to be the best path for you on your real estate investing journey. And I'm so excited today. We've got a wonderful guest that we're going to be talking with. We have Tabatha Thorell. She is a rural Nebraskan, best-selling author, speaker, life and business coach. You've done a lot in the fitness coaching as well as real estate with your family. You've got 5 kids. And so we're going to talk also too probably a lot about handling things and juggling a lot of things with many different spinning plates at the same time. So excited to hear you talk more about your journey. Welcome to the show. Thank
you so much, Mike, for having me. I'm excited to get going on this conversation.
And I should also mention too, podcast host as well. So yeah, you've got the What Went Wrong podcast. So Why don't you just give us a little bit of background and kind of how you got started, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, Mike kind of shared, I married my high school sweetheart. We have 5 beautiful daughters. We live in my husband's hometown, and we actually started real estate investing when we were in college. My husband, my father-in-law started getting properties when my husband was about 15, and my husband helped him renovate the properties, manage the properties, get it going. But my father-in-law had no experience with real estate at all. He sold his cattle to buy real estate. And so, he did this and he had the mindset like, you got to do everything yourself. If you pay somebody, you're going to go broke, And so that was just kind of the leadership that we had when we went into this. But nevertheless, it got us started because when my husband was 21, he's like, hey, Tab, I want to buy a house. And he was renting a property from his uncle actually at the time. And he's like, I just want to buy a house, live in the basement, rent out the top. And I'm like, awesome. I'll help you renovate it. Great. We'll make it look pretty, And so we bought this big old house and we tore 9 layers of wallpaper off. I mean, man, I still remember that wallpaper. Your first house, you'll never forget. And we just made it look all beautiful and pretty. And we got tenants in there, and he and his brother lived in the basement, and his brother actually paid him rent too. So, here he was 21 years old renting out to these college students and, living rent free, and it was cash flow positive. And so we just kind of got going on that. And there were so many lessons when we bought that first house. First of all, you want to make the house look nice, but let me tell you, after the first set of renters, we were like, okay, so the chair rail and the crown molding and everything that we loved was kind of destroyed. Mm-hmm. But that's okay, because we just learned what we needed to do to make it look nice, because we still wanted a nice living space for people. But we learned not to put so much emotion into the house as well, because we love to make things look pretty. And sometimes that doesn't always happen. So, we just learned what to do, what not to do. We were so green, of what was going to work and what didn't work. And here my husband was a 21-year-old guy. And when you work with college students, you work with their parents, and most of their parents are mid 40s, early 50s. And here's this 21-year-old college student, dealing with these, middle-aged parents. And so it was just kind of comical, some of the conversations that they'd have. And we knew enough that there was Google back then, I'm not that old. And so we just looked up different laws and stuff to make sure that we were doing everything right, but we just got started. Like we just did it and we didn't know. I mean, we were not an LLC. We were not, there was not, we weren't even married and we were just doing this together. And he actually bought a second property before we were married as well. And so, we were just rolling with it and just taking each step, but we were doing everything ourselves. And that was probably our first mistake. But
Mhm.
again, in the beginning, when we bought our first house, we were like nickel and diming everything. It was like we wanted it to be cash flow positive. So that's why we bought the second house. So within, I think, the next year, because when you buy your first property, something you have to realize when you just have one, it's kind of like a house of cards. Like one thing goes wrong and it just like, well, it can all crumble, And so when you have that second house, you can kind of borrow things from Paul to pay Peter, and you kind of move stuff around a little bit. And if they're both cash flow positive, you can kind of use the cash flow from this house to, renovate this house. And so you have a little bit more leverage. So whenever we're working with people, we're always like, okay, we want you to take the first step and buy the first house. But then we want the strategy of, okay, you're buying your second one and your third one, the single family home. And the reason why we do single family home is because that is the path to least resistance. Most of the time, you don't have any big renovation things like you would if you have like a duplex or a fourplex or, a 10 unit thing, because it's, 3 bedroom. So
Mhm.
it makes that less scary when you're buying your first property, and less overwhelming, especially if you have job and kids and a marriage and things like that. So that's kind of what we did. And we got married and we had kids and we just kept accumulating these properties. But again, we were doing everything ourselves.
Mhm.
So it was a part-time job. I mean, I'll just be honest. It was not this passive income that people talk about. And we'd buy old houses. And so we'd renovate them and we'd kind of see the diamond in the rough. And so we were building our wealth and we knew we were doing that for our future, but we didn't have the right mentorship. We didn't have the right coaches. It wasn't until about 2012 that I even realized that you could get a coach for something like that. And then when I sought after a coach for that, I just couldn't find the right fit. I'll be honest. It was a lot of male heavy, do this as a business, get this money, like just very aggressive, where I just didn't see the fit. And so we just kept doing everything ourselves. And finally, after baby 4 and 5, we were like, okay, we have got to have, we have to be time wealthy. And that's what I want people to realize is like, you get time wealthy by getting other people's wisdom and doing it faster and better. And that's where, for me as a coach, it's like, I love to help people do that because we struggled for almost 20 years. And we knew we were building stuff and we knew we planted the seeds, and, we were accumulating, and we were over $7 million or $7 million, 7 figures in real estate. But to just do it all ourselves and have it be passive, we needed to change the infrastructure. And so that's kind of what we've done in the last few years, is really change the infrastructure. It's allowed us to look at the next 2 to 3 years and double our portfolio and do it with ease and grace, and not like this scary overwhelm of like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? It's like excitement, like, oh yes, what's the next
Mhm.
thing? What's the next thing? So that's kind of been our journey.
So, what was that tipping point at the beginning? Obviously, your husband seeing his dad do it maybe paved the way a little bit, but
Yeah.
was it you knew that real estate was a path to build wealth and you wanted to get started that way? You saw the opportunity of having tenants pay rent right off the bat and be able to live rent free. What was kind of that beginning point for you that allowed you to jump in?
I think it was two things. First of all, it was my husband was like, yeah, I can live rent free, like I can have people pay for my rent. When you're in college and you're literally like, you're not even paycheck to paycheck, you're like barely getting by, right? So like, and I was a waitress and I was hustling and I was doing everything. And so I think that was very appealing. But we did see it from the beginning as a way to build wealth, because in, we were both in college. And he was like, I know I want to farm someday, because that was like what his family had done. But he was like, I don't want to be a slave to farming. I want to have another source of income so we're not
Mhm.
struggling. And farming, there's no retirement plan. There's no ROA or whatever, all these different things. Like we knew we were going to have that. And I knew that I wanted to own my own business, be my own boss, whatever that was. I didn't even really know that was entrepreneurship. I just knew that I wanted to not work for somebody else because I didn't like people telling me what to do.
Mhm.
So with that, I have to provide the retirement, right? And we knew that like we wanted a family and we didn't want to be, even 65, 70, still like working in the fields and doing this stuff. So we were like, if we do this and we do it right, like we can make this work. And I can't really tell you other than early 2000s was like when the new reality shows of like renovations came, the flipping houses and stuff. And we saw that and we were like, that makes sense. And I thought I might be a real estate agent. Like that was a way I could do my own business, and things didn't work out and I wasn't one. But like, we just saw that as a vision of like, we wanted time as a family because we saw our dads work their fingers to the bone and hardly ever get ahead. Like it was always a struggle. And yet they were working 16, 18-hour days. Like that's crazy to me. They were the hardest working men and they're barely getting by. So we saw this and we just trusted it. There was no rhyme. We didn't see people like in our own life that were like real estate investors and making good money. Actually, if anything, I had a negative viewpoint of that
Mhm.
because I always thought like, the rich people were greedy and they were doing it like shady, even with housing, like, oh, those investors must be nice to like have $1 million. I just had this negative, horrible viewpoint of like money and wealthy people. And it took years of really like looking at that and being like, that's not true,
Mhm.
and so, but we just knew that we wanted probably most of all time freedom. And we thought like this was the best way to get that. And so we just went with it and we just trusted it. And, I did read a lot of books, even though I didn't have like direct mentorship. Like I was just reading a lot of books and my husband was listening and reading a lot of books on like how to make this work, cash flow positive, the lingo, all of those things like financing and how we can do that. And he's very smart in that area and he just has an intuition about stuff. And so we just led with that. And so I think a lot of people right now, they're relying on the government or, oh, I have a retirement plan with my, my corporation or my business. But here's the reality. You know what? They can promise you all day long. And at the end of your years of working there, they can go bankrupt, they can pull it, they can say, oh, I don't want to do this. There's a lot of legal ways out of giving you what you deserve for working for that company. And also like Social Security and the government, like if we've learned anything over the last 5 years is like, do not trust the government with your money because there's always going to be a thing. There's always going to be a situation. And this was the way that we could control that situation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I grew up in small town Minnesota and so my parents worked for a company and both of them had their plans kind of altered shortly before retirement age. They were fortunate enough that they were able to make it work and kind of get to retirement, but
Yeah.
they didn't necessarily have momentum into retirement. And
Right.
so, because they saw the opportunity of we can bring somebody in for cheaper and we'll either reassign your job, reassign your duties. And I saw that and I thought, I want to be more in control of what
Yes.
happens later in life. And I know, that was 20, 25 years ago that I started to see the writing on the wall for my parents' career. And I was thinking, well, things are only going to change more and more the next
Yep.
25 years. And so if that's what they did, maybe this work, safe, stable, save for retirement in your retirement plan isn't going to be the best option in the future. And that's why I turned to real estate as well as how can we do something that's going to build wealth. And you mentioned kind of the time freedom as well. So talk a little bit about that piece. I mean, I know you mentioned doing it all on your own, being a part-time job and all that, but talk about that work-life balance or trying to juggle everything as you're working other areas of your life and building a family of 5 kids.
Yeah. So we sought out this for time freedom and it did suck a lot of time out of everything. But again, there were certain things that we did that we should have done differently and we could have done differently. And that's what I want to like make really clear to people. Like the things that we did in the beginning, it was a survival mode. And those were limiting beliefs. Those were things that we saw growing up that we just should have shifted earlier, like in our early 30s instead of our late 30s. And again, we didn't know, we didn't know. So the one good thing was that we just took action. So no matter what your belief system is, no matter what anything you have going on, it's like we just took action and that was the one thing. And then along the way, it was like, oh, like this happened and this, and we just shifted and do this. And even though I say it was a part-time job. It would be like we'd take our kids to these properties and we would rip out carpet together and they would paint and they would play and we would do the work together. So we were building character in our kids when they were really young and we were all together and we would make it fun. And then, it would be hard work. And it's like, okay, if you do this, then I'm going to go take you get ice cream, And so it was teaching them those things that, yes, like some things you do have to roll up your sleeves for. And, you got to get that a little bit dirty to, reap the rewards of what this was, because they knew, like with these rental properties, we'd be like, okay, we are going to plan a trip to Disney World. And because we did this work on these rental properties, we get to go. Like, what's one special treat that you want to get? And we would like build this up, and it was teaching them to plant seeds and like reaping that and building character. And I think that's where a lot of wealthy people who just go to a job, like a stockbroker or whatever, and then come home tired and exhausted and don't have a relationship with their kids, that's where we are the ones who are wealthy, because we get to instill in our kids what will actually keep the wealth from generations on. And so we were just instilling them and spending time with them and like laughing with them. And, it was never perfect and it was never easy. They whine. They don't want to pull up the carpet. They don't want to do this. It's hot in there, whatever. But it was, looking back on that, it was building something in them that I couldn't just teach like on a board at school. It was like that was the life lessons and the life learning. And so that was for us. I mean, you'd call it time freedom, but it was like family unity, which is essentially why we want time freedom, because we want to spend more time with our kids. So at least that element, like they could come to work with us and we could do it together and we could show them how it is. And they love rental clean out day, because people leave stuff all the time and they go in there and they're like, oh, I want to keep this. And oh, look at this, and they just think it's like so fun. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's junk. Just get rid of it. But they love that, And so for them, it's like finding the treasures and doing the things. And so, they know what that means. And then now as our girls are older, as we have an almost 15 and almost 13-year-old, we're teaching them, like, if you have a rental property and it's cash flow positive and you're in school and you have sports and school and activities, you can't be working a job. And if you do, this is what the amount of money you're going to make, and you're going to have to work this many hours and you're going to miss out on family time and friend time. Or you can buy a property. We can show you how to make it cash flow positive. We show you how to work with a property manager. You check in with them once a month, and this is the amount of money that you get. And we're teaching them those things, and it makes sense to them because they're like, oh my gosh, they're learning not to just trade their time for dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole reason. If I never have true time freedom, I mean, we all long for that. But if I can teach it to my kids to have it earlier, like, and have those things, then I'm like, then it's worth it. Like every generation, I think you just want a little bit better. And so it's like they see us doing that. And then now we're being able to take on projects or, even passion projects that might not pay us, but because other things are, we can do that. And it's also allowed us to, like, the home we live in now, we never would have been able to afford that if we didn't have that rental income, if we didn't make that decision. That was in 2012. Making that decision like 5 years prior, we never would have had that, like you said, you don't know what it will lead to.
Mm-hmm.
And we just took the leap and was like, okay, we're going to do this. And then his grandparents' house came up for sale and there was no way we would have been able to afford it. But he was like, hey, we have this cash flow positive from the rental properties. We can maneuver some money around. It was like, okay, that's awesome. We never planned for that. Like we didn't ever think that was going to happen. And then it did. And we were just prepared for that.
It gives you the power of choice. Like I think about my kids, I'm not going to make them get into real estate, but if they want to, great. Or if they want to do something like that on the side, or buy a house and have their friends live in it with them, in college or after college, and they still work whatever job that they're excited about and have that opportunity, great. It's an option. They don't have to do it. They can do it. I know there's other people out there that are like, well, why would I build this wealth if I don't have any? I don't want to leave it to my kids. I don't have kids that I want to leave it to or whatever. You can always give it to charity if you want. Like there's
Yeah.
so many things. You get the choice to choose however you're growing this asset. You get to choose what you want to do with it in the future. And that's the way I look at it is, yeah, if my kids want to, or maybe they don't want to right out of the gate and 10 years later they do want to do something. I'm happy to work with them if they want to work with me in the future.
Right.
But if they don't, that's okay. But they get the choice to do that.
And I think it's teaching kids like 90% of millionaires and above invest in real estate because they know that that is an asset. And so it's teaching your kids or it's teaching yourself. And I have not met a human being that said, well, I don't really want to make a lot of money. I mean, I've heard people say like, well, I'm comfortable, it's fine. Like I've heard people say that. But if you talk to somebody, even if they don't have kids, if someone who's driven, it's like, okay, you're either driven by status, which a lot of us are, or contribution, like you said, like, how can I give back to this? Because I also look at it like we have the ability to take a home, make it look better, and give a home to somebody who wouldn't have a home. Because a lot of the people that we do, they cannot buy a home for whatever reason. That's not for me to judge. I'm not here to say, oh, well, you did this and this. They can't get a home. So they
Mhm.
need a home to live in. And so when you look at it from that perspective too, it's like, if you have the ability to do that, why wouldn't you do that? And then if you have the ability to earn money, and if all you want to do is donate it to some, country and provide fresh water, why wouldn't you? Those people can't get fresh water, but you can. So I think in that sense, it's like when you look at that from a contribution standpoint, and that's what I always, I coach with people and, sometimes they're like, well, I'm comfortable, or we don't need to earn a lot. We don't need to get 6 or 7 figures. It's like, well, why? Like, why don't you? Like, if you have the ability to do this and have that infrastructure and have it run for you, I mean, real estate is never completely passive. And the only way that it would be completely passive is if you are literally like the bank for the like if you are just a true investor and you have a whole team, but you still
Mhm.
have to manage that team. So it's still not passive. Like you still have to have communication skills and you still have to have connective skills. So it's never completely 100% because if you have any stake in it, you're going to be involved some way. But you can be physically step away from it, build a team that can do it, or you can kind of do a mix, which is what my husband and I do. We have a team of people, but we also still go in and we'll renovate different things or we'll do stuff like that. So I think that's really important for people to understand. You can be as active in it or as inactive, but it's never completely passive, but it is a way that I always like to say it makes money babies. Like
Mhm.
these houses make money babies, whether you like it or not. When you buy a house, if you hold it, it will increase in value unless there is like some big catastrophic thing. And usually that's covered by insurance. And so don't even worry about that. It's like, again, and like you said, if my kids don't want to do real estate, that's 100% fine. But I'm going to ask them, what are you buying that's assets? Because if all you're buying is liabilities, if you literally are working and using money as a tool and all you're buying is liabilities, that's selfish. That's materialistic. That is what I think the true definition of greed is. Because when you don't buy things that can gain in value and you could give and it would add value to somebody else, then you're just literally materializing everything. And so it's just looking at things a little different and saying, hey, you don't have to do real estate, but like, what are you investing in? What value are you giving in? And there's other ways that you can invest other than real estate, but that is just
Mhm.
something that to me, it makes the most sense because you're, it's the least risky, really. Like when you look at it, it's really the least risky.
Talk a little bit about where you think this path is going to go for you, or what are some things that you're looking at into the future here?
So, yeah, the next 2 to 3 years, we will acquire probably 15 more properties, which will more than double what we have now. We're just in the midst of buying out some people's rental properties, and we're looking at storage units. We are working with a company of building up one in our local area, and we love storage units. We think that it's a great income investment. If you've never bought an income property, it's not where I tell people to start. I mean, not that you can't, but it's just, there's different entities, there's different things and stuff like that. But I mean, by all means, if that's where you want to start, then go for it. But if you're like hesitant, I'm not sure, we always tell people single family homes is the path to least resistance. But, we constantly look for like the apartment units. Where we live, it's a little bit harder, but that's where I'm building up connections. Because I'll tell you this right now, your best deal, your next deal is going to be through the connections you make. The connections that we have with our local bank have helped us so much, but we build relationship with them. They know us. Like literally, if we come to them with anything, they're like, okay, how much? Like, I mean, it's just like, because we've built that up with them over time. So it's the relationships that you built. Me doing these podcasts, I work with podcasters and they're like, oh my gosh, I have this deal, or, oh, I have this thing. And, building those collaborations, your network of people will really help you move the needle. And then we just recently decided to launch a program that helps families of entrepreneurs buy their first and second income property so they can build that wealth. So we call it legacy wealth, because it's not just about buying the property. That's great. But I'll be honest, guys, there is a thing called YouTube, and everything you need to know is on there. I mean, it really is. But then, Mike, you talked about it, but people still don't do it. They're still
Mhm.
scared. They still don't, they have the knowledge. We have the knowledge, guys. If you want to be a millionaire or be financially free, even if the word millionaire freaks you out, but you want to be financially free, you guys know that real estate's the thing, because 90% of millionaires are doing it. So I always do the thing, like, do what rich people are doing, do what people ahead of me are doing. So if they're buying real estate, I'm buying real estate, right? Like if I want to do that, you want to do that. So to do that. So what is the missing link? It's that person that's going to push you out of the nest. It's that person that's going to keep you accountable. It's that circle of community that's going to say, okay, that's a good deal. I would do that. Yes. Okay. This is how you get financing. This is how I would negotiate. It's maybe being prepped a little bit with how to handle the different financing options. It's how to negotiate with the seller. If you're doing a seller finance deal, it's knowing the psychology of that. So when you go in, you're the most confident, because the reason why people don't buy income properties is because they're not confident about it. Bottom
Mhm.
line, if you were certain, if I came to you, Mike, and I said, okay, I have this 3-bedroom house. You're going to be after everything, taxes, insurance, even a little savings, because you always got to put a little savings for that house just in case, all the things, right? All the numbers. And you're going to be cash flow positive $500 a month. Would you do it?
Mhm.
If you would have 500 in your pocket after the property manager, and you literally were just kind of the CEO of that, like you just had to talk to him once a month, would you do it?
Yeah.
Absolutely, you would do it. I mean, who won it? That's like $500 cash for just doing a little bit of work in the beginning. And so if I gave you that certainty, you would do it. The problem is people put so much in front of that certainty that they think, I can't have that certainty, so I'm not going to do it because it might be taken away. Well, here's a little tip, guys. Everything and anything you have in life can be taken away. Your job, your spouse, your kids, that's just the reality. So if you live in that fear in anything, it's like you're going to live in that fear in everything. So for us, like buying a house and doing the thing, sometimes I'm just like, oh, I just don't want to negotiate today. I'm just like, I just don't want to do it. But then I'm like, no, I'm going to call them. I'm just going to see. And then you get in it and it's like a game. And then you're like, oh, I got to see this property. And ooh, I wonder if we could work the numbers. Like right now we're looking at a lake property. And the numbers are high. Where we live, lakefront property is very expensive. And I'm like, I just kind of joked with my husband last night. I'm just like, can we just work the numbers like just for fun, just to see if we can make it happen? And, he
Sure.
kind of grinned, because then you start to vision like
Mhm.
your life of what that looks like. And maybe you just want to up level your house or make a bigger impact, or you do have a family and you want to leave a legacy that is generational. And it's not just about the money, it's about the legacy that you leave. Whatever your vision is, whatever your intention is, there's no wrong thing. Even if you just want to if you want to do the business of real estate, that's totally fine too. And be that real estate guru and have all the things and get that status, that's fine too. But like knowing that forefront is really important whenever you buy a house, and just know that that's going to serve you. We knew from the beginning we wanted to build wealth for our kids. And so all the struggles, everything, because there was a time when I just told my husband, sell all the houses. I was like, I'm done. Like we were getting calls and stuff was breaking and like things and money was going out like crazy. And I'm just like, I'm done. Like, I don't see you, our kids don't see you. And he's just like, just take a deep breath. Like, we did think about it and we were like, okay, we need to change some things. And then that's when, usually at that breaking point's when you change it. And then that's where the breakthrough does happen. Like my podcast, What Went Wrong? It was like, we were doing, too much. And it took that breaking point for us to say, okay, we need to hire people out. And that's when we started hiring out some contractors, some subcontractors and things like that. And we took more load off of us. And guess what? Our bottom line was still good. We were still cash flow positive. And it helps in our taxes. I'll tell you that right now. So if you want any sort of tax break in your current business, you got to buy property. So those are the things that we're doing and we're excited for.
Real estate agents, are you tired of letting the busyness of life get in your way from achieving your real estate investing goals? I'm super excited to announce we've created the Real Freedom Investor Agent Tribe. It's a place for you to come, get educated, and network with others so that you can make sure that you're hitting your real estate investment goals. So find out more on our website, realfreedom.com. Click on the store link. We've got a membership, we've got a mastermind group, and some private coaching as well. Check it out. I've priced it super low. The goal is to get you in, not have price be a determining factor to keep you from your goals. So come check it out, schedule a call with me, and we're happy to see where your real estate journey is going to take you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing. For people that do want to reach out to you, learn more about you, or connect with you, how can they do that?
So we have a website called Keep Legacy Wealth, and our freebies, our free resources are on there. So go check that out. It's kind of what we're about. We're really formulating this group that wants to come together and build that wealth long-term and again, invest in your kids. And we do a lot of success and wealth principles for the entire family, not just for you, and how to buy that property and that second and that third property. So that's our big passion. And then What Went Wrong? The Untold Stories of Bouncing Back, that's on every podcast channel and YouTube. So go check that out. I just interview entrepreneurs and they tell me like their most horrific stories and how they got out of it. And so it's very intriguing. I mean, we have everything from, drugs and alcohol to suicide to a mom not wanting to get out of bed and take care of her kids, like all walks of life, but just giving people a little bit of hope, like your darkest day is going to be right before your brightest day. And that's what these stories do. And I just love it. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. Excited to see where you guys continue to grow. So best of luck to you in the future.